Hey, this is Dr. Emily Sherding with AR, and we've got your 2050 climate forecast for the southern Great Plains. This region has been defined in the government reports as 3 states: Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. Texas is our most populous state in the region, and Texas has those challenges that come with the coastline, so we'll be spending a little bit more time on those issues. But for the region in general, our most important challenges for 2050 revolve around water and infrastructure. Now, both of these challenges, water and infrastructure, are going to need to be considered in the context of longer summers. In Kansas and Oklahoma, by 2050, we're projected to be looking at a week or so more of 100-degree days every summer. In Texas, particularly in the southern half of the state, it's going to be closer to a couple weeks more of that extreme heat by 2050. Please note that there are a couple of protected pockets in Texas. It's not looking so rough in central Texas. There's a pretty extensive protected pocket, or up by Marfa and Alpine. There's a nice little region there. But if we don't take action to reduce emissions, by 2100, much of Texas, compared to today, will see 90 to 100 more days a year over 100 degrees. Really, really hot projections for Texas if we don't reduce emissions. But let's look at that water challenge. There's not a lot of change projected for future rainfall in terms of the total amount of water that'll fall on the area. But that water is likely to be concentrated in more of those extreme storms. With those storms being more extreme, there's going to be more space between them, more dry time between the rains. So you're looking at a trend towards lower soil moisture. And of course, that's going to have a lot of impact on your land use and your agriculture. Those decreasing trends with the soil moisture mean that everyone is going to be thinking about groundwater, and that's where you're really on the crux of the problem. The Ogallala Aquifer is your dominant water source in a lot of the region, and across all 3 of those states, and that aquifer is being overused, especially towards the southern end of the Ogallalas range. You're looking at it running dry or being so low as to be unusable. By 2050, not that far away, the Edwards Aquifer in Texas is also in rough shape. There's some good news. Kansas, by and large, the aquifers are going to be okay where you are. Kansas has good potential for continued groundwater use. And speaking for the whole region, there's a lot more awareness of the fact that these resources are precious and limited, and there are many groups working on ways to recharge the aquifers. But none of that changes the problem. Water is tight in the region. And you might know that water to the west of the region, we're looking at a real problem, a much more serious problem. And right now, there's a relationship there where we have some water dependency in the southern Great Plains based on what's going on in the southwest. The southern Great Plains region currently imports a fair amount of food from Arizona, and Arizona is looking at water cuts in the next couple of years. Power, water, food. The southern Great Plains is in a tight relationship with the southwestern states around these crucial factors, and our friends in the southwest are going to be hurting. There's a really serious part of the infrastructure challenge that the southern Great Plains will face, and that is a need to shift resources and relationships in the face of changing national resource availability. Continuing to look at these complex, these interrelated infrastructure problems, let's talk about the coast for a minute. For Texas, we got water issues related to a lot of nationally vital coastal infrastructure. A lot of our nation's power relies on Texan coastal infrastructure, and I am not happy to report that the Gulf Coast, we're looking at twice the projected sea level rise of other parts of the U.S. On the Texas Gulf Coast, it could be 2 or 3 feet of rise by 2050. Really extreme. I had to check these numbers in the reports like 8 times. I don't want to believe them. In the government reports, it says that the feds project that over $30 billion in developed property will be under the high water mark in Texas by 2050. I don't want that to be true. That's pretty shocking. Add some storm surge on top of that, you could be looking at an event that threatens our nation's ability to refine petroleum and natural gas. You could be looking at an event that critically impacts our nation's strength and security. We should all be concerned. For those of us near the Gulf, it's important to really take in the reality that we're likely to see more of those intense hurricanes too. As the Gulf warms, we see more hurricanes undergo that rapid intensification that we saw in summer of 2021. Where you're looking at a Cat 2 one day, you got no worries, you're not going to evacuate, you're just tying down. Then you wake up the next day and it's a Cat 4 or 5. And you don't have time to plan that. You have to have your planning done ahead of time. And we all have to build these emergency responses into the system for our homes, for our communities, and for our critical national infrastructure. Because it's not like the hurricanes just impact Texas. The whole region, the whole country is going to be in pain when Texas is in pain. You're not going to get the flow of goods in and out of the port of Houston. You're going to feel it at the pump and with your utility bills. It's a big deal. Finding ways to redistribute these resource loads and to guard and build resilience for our coastal resources, these are critical projects. They don't have easy answers, and they don't have the kind of solutions where a person can do it alone. All the good solutions, we're going to need to be able to rely on each other and work as a team. We can do it, and we need to start now. This is Dr. Schoening with AR signing out. Please like and subscribe. Help get the message out there. There is hope. We can prepare for what's coming. Let's get ready.